The prayer this morning will be offered by the General Lady representing Frederick County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Most kind, honorable, oh Lord, I had no idea my preacher, Pastor Shack, was going to be in the house. So please help him hear a much longer prayer because we need to get to business. Bless us and guide us to model and legislate decency for all. Wrap us in your creative and wise brevity to accomplish much with less. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 members present, the House is now in session. Clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, February 26, 2024.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the journal.
So ordered, petitions, memorials, and other papers. Recognizing the good delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. You may notice something unusual in the State House today. There are tigers roaming our halls, but do not be alarmed. These tigers hail from Towson University, one of the great public universities in the state of Maryland, and one of the jewels of District 43B. Today, we are celebrating Tiger Pride Day with a resolution honoring this outstanding institution. Joining us on the rostrum today, give him a big welcome, the new president of Towson University, Dr. Mark Ginsberg, and Jordan Colquitt, the president of the Student Government Association. Thank you.
The clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Towson University students in recognition of the 25th Annual Tiger Pride Advocacy Day and applauding the spirit, enthusiasm, and dedication of our Towson University students to your institution. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on the 6th day of March 2024.
Recognizing the General Lady representing Prince George's County.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, today is Maryland Links Advocacy Day in Annapolis. Please welcome our distinguished guests, Desiree Hughes, President of the Silver Spring, Maryland chapter, Jacqueline Gray, President of the Southern Maryland Chain, Maryland chapter, Dana Stebbins, the immediate past president of the Mount Rose, Maryland chapter and current chair of the Legislative and Public Affairs Committee. As an introduction to some and a reminder to others, the Links Incorporated is an international not-for-profit corporation established in 1946. It is one of the nation's oldest and largest volunteer service organizations committed to enriching, sustaining, and ensuring the cultural, economic survival of African Americans and other people of African ancestry. Madam Speaker, there are several in this body with whom I am linked in friendship and connected in service. May I have permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Let's start with you, Madam Speaker. Speaker Adrian Jones. Delegate Vanessa Atterbury. Delegate Edith Patterson. Delegate Karen Tolles. Delegate Jennifer White Holland. And then there's me, Delegate Kim Taylor. And to all of our Link sisters who are in the gallery, please stand, and Delegate Pam Queen.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Maryland chapter of the Links Incorporated in recognition of your tireless advocacy work on behalf of women's health, public safety in our communities, and greater empowerment for Maryland families. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on the 6th day of March 2024.
Message from the Senate. Senate bills introduced in the House. The clerk will read the bills and committee assignments.
Senate Bill 2, Senator Carter, Judiciary. Senate Bill 119, Senator Lamb, Health and Government Operations and Judiciary. Senate Bill 744, the President, Judiciary. Senate Bill 1106, the President. House Rules by order of Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Report of the Committee on Rules and Executive Nomination. Report number 24-801. Clerk will read the executive nomination.
Executive nominations, January 10, 2024. The Governor, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? The clerk will take the call. There being 134 members present and votes in the affirmative, the nominations are adopted. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 3. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 125, Courts, Military Records, Recordation and Inspection. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much to be to consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you so much. Let me pull the right paper out for you.
Can you put your mic a little closer to your mouth?
Sorry about that. Okay. Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 strikes armed services and substitutes uniformed services. And amendment number 3 strikes language in the bill that is no longer necessary and clarifies that the clerk of the court does not have to immediately redact certain Social Security numbers. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 141, Criminal Procedure, Child Abuse Victim, Testimony Taken Outside the Courtroom. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes the bill as introduced and instead repeals a requirement that an emotionally distressed child victim of abuse be unable to reasonably communicate before the child's testimony may be taken outside of the courtroom. Please move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 249, Public Safety Statewide DNA Database System, DNA Collection and Penalties, Alterations. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 makes the criminal prohibition applicable only to a person who refuses to provide a DNA sample as required, clarifies that an employee who attempts to collect a sample but is unable to do so due to a refusal shall be deemed to have discharged the employee's duty under the statute, and specifies that a certain sample that is collected but not tested must be destroyed and expunged rather than destroyed or expunged under certain circumstances. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 259, District Court Traffic Cases, Surcharges. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chairman of the committee.
Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment increases the surcharge from $9.50 to $10. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 324, Maryland Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, transfers as custodian for the benefit of a minor. Authorization of court. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment alters the threshold monetary amount that a personal representative, trustee, or conservator may transfer to a custodian from $50,000 to $25,000. It's a reduction. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 476, Criminal Procedure, Forensic Genealogical DNA Analysis and Search, Applicability for Deceased and Missing Children. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 applies the bill to all deceased and missing individuals regardless of age. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 4. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 172, Department of State Police, Professional Occupations, Application Process. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the chairman of the committee.
Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 adds the application processes for security systems technicians, security systems agencies, railroad police officers, and police detective agencies to the bill. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 498, Real Property Access to Counsel in Evictions Program, Mandated Reports. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move such be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The amendment limits the reporting requirements to match the sunset of the bill. Move the amendment.
Question before the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have a question or two about the bill, if the floor leader could rise.
Sure.
Could you just tell me what the bill does?
Sure. So right now there's a requirement for reporting on evictions. On the eviction program, the reporting requires the number of covered individuals provided legal representation during the previous year, information on the metrics, evaluating the case outcomes, the summary of the engagement and education of tenants. This bill would basically include that, add a few more things that the reporting will be required, and the funding for this ends in 2027. This reporting requirement would end at the same time.
Okay, just two more questions. Who's doing the reporting?
So
when we say eviction program,
right.
Is there a program that's doing the reporting?
MLSC, the Maryland Legal Services Corporation.
Okay, and then the reports, are they county-based, or is there a single report that the state? I'm assuming it's a report I could ask.
The report goes to the governor and the General Assembly.
Okay, and so are they doing this county by county? In other words, is there some element of how each county, number of evictions, number of diversion programs, or whatever?
Yeah, it is disaggregated by county, but it's also statewide.
All right, diversion was the wrong word. That's not the right word. But the point is, when people go into the courts and they're getting evicted, I'm assuming these reports speak to their success helping constituents resolve issues, and that this report would be responsive to that for somebody like me that might be interested in how we're dealing with this.
And yes, and in fact, the advocates for tenants and the advocates for the Multi-Housing Association and landlords are all very much in favor of having this information available.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 549, Statute of Limitations, Prosecution or Enforcement of Local Consumer Protection Codes. Favor of the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move this be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you. The first amendment adds sponsors, and the second one makes a technical change and starts the limitations period running from when the local authorities knew or should have known of the violation instead of when the violation was committed. Move the amendments. Thank you.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 664, Court Personnel, Protection of Personal Information, Judge Andrew F. Wilkinson, Judicial Security Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 strikes the word person and substitutes individual in certain provisions of the bill, and it adds task force members and task force requirements. Essentially, we took the Senate amendments to speed this along. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1127, Sexual Assault Forensic Examinations Conducted Through Telehealth, Reimbursement and Study. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 defines peer-to-peer telehealth and specifies that the telehealth examinations that are the subject of the bill must be between a forensic nurse examiner in one location and a qualified health care provider who is with the patient in another location. Please move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 20. Recognizing the, I'm sorry, if the clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 245, Department of the Environment, Fees, Penalties, Funding, and Regulation. Favorable report is amended. Adopted.
Okay. Recognizing the order, the maker of the special order, the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk, 443326/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This bill we're going to talk about a little bit today, it's a 23-page fiscal note. All of us sit in committees, all of us read fiscal notes all day long. I want you to think how many fiscal notes you see that are 23 pages long of analysis. Why is it 23 pages? I don't mean to be facetious when I say that this bill essentially is FIA-palooza. It is the Maryland Department of Environment that has included probably half a dozen, maybe closer to 10, different programs, different fees, different increases across a wide variety of programmatic initiatives and fee payers, essentially. It's very difficult to get your hands around this, but I want you to understand that ultimately when you vote for the bill, you're voting for $12 million in additional fees. A lot of the fees that come through the process, it's very difficult for us to calculate what their costs are. We're all sitting here saying we need more revenue, we need more revenue. Probably really raising hundreds of millions of dollars with the 250 plus fee increases that have been proposed in the last 10 to 12 months. 250 proposed or enacted through the ALR administrative process and also here in our legislature. And so there are some of the fees that are raised in this particular bill that not only will be raised today, but we are punting our ability and our oversight ability to monitor and control what those fees are upon our constituents, upon our small businesses, wetlands, waterways. Someone wants to build a house, there's a puddle of water there, they have to go through a process, they have to pay a fee, sewer systems, all these kind of things that are included in this bill. And some of them have an automatic provision that says they will continue to raise year after year after year because they are chained to the Consumer Price Index. I hope that all of us, all 141 of us, start to think logically about what that means, because it seems to me, you know, I went to law school, I was taught by a guy who told me that all questions, not by my good friend from Baltimore City, but a different professor who told me that there's a Latin phrase called cui bono. And I said, well, what does cui bono means? It means who benefits. And essentially, it has been translated in many languages as whose ox is being gored. Essentially, if you're logically consistent, you like a policy because it's a policy. If you're just picking winners and losers that suits your side, then you willy-nilly apply logical concepts. And that's what we're doing as a legislature with the Consumer Price Index. We want more taxes and more fees. We don't want to have to vote for them continuously and say we raise them, so we tie them to the CPI. And then automatically they go up and 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 they go up. What we don't chain to the CPI is things like fare box recovery rates. So the mass transit that's paid for in the state, we eliminated CPI being tied to the users of mass transit. So if you want to get a permit through MDE, through the variety of these programs, your fee is going to automatically be raised every year pursuant to their CPI analysis. But if you want to use other state services, taxpayer-funded services, your fee, your cost for entry is not going to be raised at all because we have decoupled that from CPI. That's illogical. What the amendment does, quite simply, is it says that, this amendment, it says that the new fees, the new fee raises that are created by this bill, that are chained in the bill to CPI, we would remove the Consumer Price Index chain. If the department comes back next year, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and says we need more fees, we need to adjust these things, then we should have to deal with that in a bill. And we know that they can do it because that's what they're doing now. They have a 23-page fiscal note bill. We want to raise all these fees. If we had the power to do it on our own through CPI, why would they have the bill? So we know that they can do it. We know that that's the process or part of the process that exists. There are other fees in the bill that are already chained to CPI. In a spirit of comedy, the amendment doesn't try to take those out. Those were things that were decided years ago. I'm not trying to go back and re-break eggs that are already been mixed in the omelet. I'm trying to say that going forward, we should take a logically consistent position and say we're not just going to punt everything to having it tied to the Consumer Price Index. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Floor Leader.
Thank you to the good delegate to getting us these amendments in advance. The first amendment deals with the septics program, and this under House Bill 245, that just enables MDE to set a fee in the event that it takes that. With respect to septics, generally MDE delegates that authority to local governments, to county health departments. In the event that that authority needs to be reclaimed by MDE, this would just enable MDE to set fees in those situations. And with respect to the issue of precluding the ability of MDE to make adjustments based on CPI, what the bill does is just enabling it. MDE is not going to automatically make these adjustments. And in a couple cases, I believe, I'm not sure if it's this amendment or the following amendment, it actually would take flexibility away from programs where MDE already has that flexibility to adjust based on CPI, the waterways, wetlands, and clean air programs. And just as a general point, a number of these fees, for example, or the provisions of the bill, the septics, the clean air fees, those were specifically negotiated with stakeholders. So industry is already on board. So for all those reasons, I would urge the body to reject this amendment. Thank you.
Speaker, just
Maker of the amendment.
Thank you. I have said this before. I'll probably say it again. If it was simply a matter of taking the word of my colleagues and looking the people in this room in the eye, including my friend from Baltimore County, about a government agency won't do this, they're unlikely to do that, they won't do it, I would take your word that that's what they would not be likely to do and not intended to do. But I think that's one of the things that divides us sometimes politically is our level of faith in government. Mine has been shaken in many cases throughout my life, and I cannot simply state that when we give an agency a power to raise costs and raise fees on our consumers, on our individuals, our citizens, our businesses, and then we say, but trust us, they probably won't do it. I don't think that's the case. I think if we believe that they're not going to do it, then we should restrain them specifically in statute from doing it. We should make them come and work with us in order to get that done. So I believe very much the contention that, hey, a lot of these things may not happen. If that's the case, then why don't we go ahead and make sure of that? And with that, subject to any further debate, I'd move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just in response, MDE is subject to annual reporting requirements with respect to these fees. So the legislature is certainly given full notice about any changes to any of these fees, based on CPI that the department might do. So if, based on these reports, if we feel that there is some sort of growing imbalance between costs and CPI adjustments, then at that point we can certainly take action. But otherwise, I mean, to require that every single time that, MDE regulates a fair number of activities, and as the good delegate has said, this is a lengthy bill. So to require that every time there's to be any sort of adjustment, they have to come back to the legislature for approval certainly creates a fair amount of administrative burden. And again, you do have that disclosure sort of backstop of the reporting requirements from MDE. So I would urge a red vote on this amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? No. Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails.
I have an additional amendment at the desk, Madam Speaker.
Well, let me do what I'm supposed to do.
That's why I was waiting.
Okay. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Recognizing the minority leader.
We're getting it together, Madam Speaker. Thank you. I appreciate it. I have another amendment at the desk, the last amendment in this series. It is 143627/1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In conjunction with the argument that we just had, or the debate that we just had, the good gentleman from Baltimore County said, hey, we get reports that talk about these fees. I have to be honest with you. I serve, I'm not sure I enjoy serving, but I serve, as some of you do, many of you do, on what's called the AELR committee. Being a part of the AELR committee generally means you get 20, 30, 50, 150 emails a day, it seems like some days, with regulations from everything from foot powders to how we're going to, maintain nuclear energy in the state. You get all these emails, and it's very, very difficult to process them. What I would suggest to you in my, I think now 6 or 7 years on the AELR committee is that they are not frequently accompanied by what I would call a robust fiscal analysis, as we grow accustomed to here during the session, where we get fiscal notes prepared that do their level best to give us an idea of an analysis of what the costs are and what the fiscal effects are of a particular governmental action. In the AELR system, because there are so many regulations and they are just so relentless, I haven't seen that. And I think many of you who've served on that committee, I think in good faith would agree with me. So what this amendment does is it essentially says for some of these new fees that have been created, if you're going to change to CPI, as we just determined that you're going to do, and the department's going to say, yes, we're raising the fee, they have to provide a notice of that to the AELR committee. So they have to say, we've promulgated a new regulation. This fee's going from $75 to $92.50 because CPI increased over the period of time. That has to go to the AELR committee. And the AELR committee, as it operates then, does not vote on everything. In fact, does not vote on 99% of the things presented to it, but has the ability for legislators to see that increase directly and to lodge an objection to it if they believe that it is appropriate. The amendment also, in the effort to do things in an omnibus fashion, the amendment also says that, hey, if we do an analysis, the departments have these analyses, as my friend from Baltimore County says that they should have, that indicates that the amount of new fees that we've raised exceed the programmatic costs. I've heard a lot this year about we have to raise fees to pay for the programs. So if the analysis suggests that the raised fees exceed the programmatic costs, the money should go back. Where should it go back to? I think many in this room would say it should go back to the general fund. We got needs. But that's taking money under false pretenses, because you're telling people you're paying these fees for these programs to sustain them, not to sustain the general funds. What the amendment in addition does to providing this transparency through the ALR process is it requires that overages, so that fees that have been collected and monies that exist in these programs that is not necessary to maintain the program according to the agency, would be distributed back to the fee payors on a pro rata basis, so that people who have paid too much to get what they bargained for, the efficiencies, the value of the program, get some of their money back. And so we believe that that's the right way to run these fee increases. If you're truly going to stand up and say they're just to pay for the programs, then let's make sure that they just pay for the programs. If not, they are essentially an indirect tax raise upon a variety of consumers and businesses. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In response, I want to make a few points. First, with respect to the wetlands and waterways fees that are authorized, that already, for which MDE already has authority, in which there is a fee modification proposed, advance notification is already required for any fee changes. With respect to sort of the calibration between costs and the actual revenue that's generated by the fees, that is something that MDE takes into account in determining whether they're, based on the authority to make adjustments based on CPI, whether they're already in balance or not. And so presumably if they're not in balance, the fee is too much, by a small amount, then there wouldn't be any consideration of CPI adjustment. And again, we get notice of changes to any of these fees on an annual basis from MDE. So if we have that there is an adjustment that was not justified, we could certainly request additional information from MDE and then take legislative action if necessary. So again, I urge a red vote on this amendment.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would my colleague, I'll pause for a minute. Would my colleague, I had a question based upon that last remark that you made, sir. You said that we receive advance notification of these fees, but to my knowledge, it's not provided to the ALR committee. Is that correct?
For the wetlands and waterways fees,
I believe that was the one you mentioned, at least in particular.
Requires the department to issue a public notice.
Okay. So it requires a public notice, but not the ALR process where legislators get specific information and have an opportunity to hold the regulation.
You are correct.
Okay. And when you also said that it is inherent in MDE's responsibility to provide an indication of whether the program is in balance, and that's why we need the fee increase. But if they already had this power to do this, why do we need this giant bill? Because if they already had last year the power to do this and all they had to do was provide notification, why do they have a departmental bill specifically raising $12 million in fees and generating a 23-page fiscal note?
Well, because in a number of cases, the ability to adjust based on CPI was not afforded to the department. And so by statute, the fees are to be reasonably related to the costs. So if over time, then there is this imbalance and that the fees are not covering costs, then the ability to adjust based on CPI would give them that flexibility.
And I appreciate that. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but do you have any particulars as to MDE? I didn't see it in the fiscal note, which was strange given the length of it, that says, for example, the Wetlands and Waterways program last year generated X amount and cost Y amount, and as a result, we need a fee increase to get us to Delta X.
No, I don't believe. I believe you're correct. There isn't that detail in the fiscal note, but in particular cases, with a number of these fees, the department said that X amount of the program operating costs had to be funded by the general fund. And in a lot of these cases, that has been the case because the fees have not been increased for a while.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate the information. Thank you. And again, I think it just comes down to a fundamental decision about oversight. The fees and the balances, maybe they're right. We should all have an opportunity to take a look at that. At least the ALR committee, that is the representatives of this body, as these regulations and fees move forward, should have the ability to take a look at that versus just simply trust the department. We're not really giving you all the information, but just trust us, it's going to work out okay. And that would be the purpose of this amendment, and we would hope that the chamber would consider it as such. And with that, I move the amendment, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Oppose? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 21. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 473, Higher Education, Undocumented Students, Out-of-State Tuition Exemption Eligibility. Favorable report adopted.
Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I understand the committee amended the bill addressing the concerns, so I want to thank the chair for the conversation and thank the committee for the great work.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk, Amendment 953427/1.
Amendment number 1.
The amendment strikes tax year immediately and inserts 2-year period, which in practical result means the person would have to live here for at least 13 months. Move the amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The amendment passes. Any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 22. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 609, Education, Public Libraries, Collective Bargaining, Library Workers Empowerment Act. Favorable report as amended adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number Amendment number 103425 -1.
Amendment number 1.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So my amendment here simply carves out from the bill public library systems with fewer than 100 full-time equivalent employees. I took a look at the Maryland State Library Agency's staffing data for each library system, and with this amendment, the majority of our most populated counties or jurisdictions would still be covered under this bill. And this includes Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Harford County, Howard County, Montgomery County, Prince George's County, and even the 2 counties that I represent, Carroll County and Frederick County. So this amendment really would just be accommodating some of our smallest library systems in the state, some of whom have less than 2 dozen staff members employed total across the county in some of these library systems. So thank you.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And to my good friend from Carroll and Frederick, I do really appreciate the conversations that we've had and you sharing the amendment. Colleagues, I would urge you to reject it. First off, our committee, the Appropriations Committee, actually considered a similar amendment as we were working the bill last week that would have exempted essentially any county with fewer than 250. We considered that amendment. It was rejected. But more importantly, this bill is really about statewide consistency. We had a couple of opportunities where counties had brought forth bills, and I think it's really been the will of our committee and this body that we want to try to create some consistency. We did that last year with the Public Employee Relations Act to try to create some consistency across the board for collective bargaining processes, and we really don't want to leave anybody out. Most importantly, and this bill, as we mentioned yesterday, enables workers to start the process of collectively bargaining. There's no guarantee. They still have to go through the process. They still have to, organize. They still have to make sure that a majority of their colleagues in any county actually wants a union. So this bill does not guarantee that any county will actually have a union representing their employees. It just creates the process that gives everybody in the state the opportunity to go through the process to collectively bargain. And honestly, this bill is pretty similar to a bill that passed, or almost identical to the bill that passed out of this chamber last year in bipartisan fashion again, which was about creating consistency across the board. And the last point that I want to make is, I think we always kind of hear a little bit of a misconception about collective bargaining, that it's always about wages. It's not about wages. It's about making sure that everybody has a seat at the table. It's about partnership, and it's about, working conditions and other areas beyond just wages. Obviously, wages are a part of it. But importantly with that, this bill maintains protections for county governing bodies, so your county council or your commissioner, depending on what the makeup of your county is, and it allows that county governing body still to ultimately have authority over the budget of a library system. So anything that is negotiated still has to pass those county governing bodies and has to be approved within the budget and the confines of the budget that those county governing bodies set. So with that, again, I feel like this amendment is unnecessary and would urge the body to cast a red vote. Thank you.
On the amendment?
Madam Speaker, can I add something, please?
Yes, I said on the amendment.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, sir.
Thank you. So yeah, with that, so a lot of these smaller counties, they already receive less state funding for their libraries each fiscal year, which means that a lot of these libraries, they heavily rely upon our county governments to fund their operations and maintenance. And as we all know, I would say probably all of our county governments right now are facing unprecedented budget challenges for a number of reasons. So our counties aren't exactly flush with cash right now, and potentially this bill could lead to a lot of our small counties having to really look at our library budgets, and depending on if these library systems were to decide to move forward with what this bill is allowing these library systems to do, this could result in some of our libraries having to potentially reduce library hours, which I believe we've seen in some systems already, and potentially cut staff. So with that, Madam Speaker, I move the amendment.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. Roll call.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded the vote? Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 19. Clerk, read the bill.
House Bill 212, Vehicle Laws, Noise Abatement Monitoring Systems, authorization for report is amended, adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Madam Speaker, thank you. So despite our office ordering an amendment in a timely manner, it has not been provided back to us. So I'm happy to leave it to the discretion of the chair, but I do not have an amendment available for this body at this time.
Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Is this the last item on the calendar today, if I may ask?
You want us to come back to it?
Could I special order
Yes,
to the end of the
I will.
calendar?
Yeah. House Bill 212 has been special ordered to the end of the calendar. Introduction of House bills. Special order calendar number 23. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 702, Wage and Hour Law, Minor League Baseball Players, exemption, favorable, board adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And if my good friend from the Environment and Transportation Committee would like me to stand up and talk for a while to delay your special order, I'd be happy to do that.
He may not want to, but I certainly don't.
The ECM, by the way.
I think my neighbor here said, let's take me out to the ball game. All my questions have been answered on this. Thank you so much for allowing me time to take a look at this bill. I appreciate it.
Okay. All righty. Any further debates, amendments on the bill? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. We have the amendment? Yes. Make.
Yeah, it was emailed to me, but they're bringing it up right now physically.
Introduction of bond initiative after the 55th day.
Can you put that up? I don't know. I guess she wants to do.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Baltimore County.
Thank you. As much as I would like to blame the people for giving me this so late, I will not blame them because they're all good people, so I will take responsibility that they gave this to me so late in the session. It is my fault. And they could have given it to me a lot earlier, but I will still fall on the sword for them. Thank you.
Shall the bond initiative be introduced? It requires 94 votes. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. Quick finger action. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, the bond initiative will be introduced. Clerk will read the bond initiative and the committee assignment.
Introductory House Bond Initiatives number 60, February 27, 2024, referred to appropriations.
Introduction of House Bill during the last 35 days of session. Recognizing the maker of the motion. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm blaming the Senate. I mean, there's no question. I'm blaming the Senate. Thank you, Madam Speaker. All of it, absolutely. Our junior chamber, yeah.
Shall the bill be introduced? It requires 94 votes. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change your vote? So the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, the bill will be introduced. Clerk, read the bill and the committee assignment.
House Bill 1523, Delegate Howard, House Rules.
Okay. Special order calendar number 19. Clerk, read it.
House of 212, Vehicle Laws, Noise Abatement Monitoring Systems, Authorization. Favor report is amended, adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 563925.
Amendment number 1.
Moves Move so much be considered reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
So the way this was written is technical in nature, but in otherwise, it basically exempts non-modified exhaust systems is what the amendment to the bill does. So it would exempt individuals that have not modified their exhaust systems. And then I'll explain. So in Maryland, and I did a lot of research on this last night, we talked about it doesn't apply to fighter jets flying over. This bill doesn't apply to lawnmowers next to vehicles. It applies to the engine and exhaust systems is what this bill applies to. And believe it or not, in Maryland, there's a law on the books that state that vehicles cannot exceed a certain decibel level, which is 80. And I understand this bill has a threshold up to 85 and such. But here's what I found out. There are stock vehicles. So when I say stock, you buy a brand new car from a Maryland dealer that the stock vehicle exceeds the decibel level. Stock muffler systems. We have stock Harley Davidsons and other motorcycles that exceed the decibel levels in our state. Now, and I just want to point this out. Not every state in America has decibel, and I keep saying decibel because yesterday I said decimal like 100 times, so I'm fixing myself today. But not every state in the country has decibel levels to where you can get a citation for exceeding that. So what I'm doing with my amendment is I want to protect Maryland citizens who purchased a new vehicle, have never modified their car, have never taken off exhaust systems, pulled out the stuffing out of their muffler, have never had a rat rod. These are individuals that purchase brand new cars or stock vehicles, and unbeknownst to them, they have a vehicle that exceeds the decibel level. And so what my amendment does is in that situation, they would not get a citation because, as you stated, there's a human component to this. They receive a citation in the mail. They have an opportunity to say, hey, my vehicle's brand new. I never modified anything on it. And they would get a waiver on that. So, Madam Speaker, with that, move the amendment.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the good delegate who ran the amendment back here as soon as he got it. Body, I would ask you all to resist the amendment. First and foremost, the decibel level is already on the books. So these cars are already breaking the law. Secondarily, if we were to do that, we would be incentivizing manufacturers to go ahead and continue to break the law. So this bill is just an enforcement mechanism for the law. So we don't want to accept a whole group of cars from the law. But the second thing I want to say is that this is just a pilot program. This is 3 cameras in 3 counties. And if we find out that we're running into an issue with these new cars, then that might be something that we want to look at. And the third thing I wanted to say is that the first citation is a warning. So if this is a car off a new lot and it gets a citation, the first citation is a warning. So that person then knows that they are breaking the law before there is any fine accrued. So with that, Madam Speaker, thank you, and I ask the body to reject the amendment.
Maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My last point on this is there are cars as simple as a Corvette. Corvette from the factory in Maryland exceeds the decibel level in our state. And so what you're saying with this bill is that if you're driving through Anne Arundel, Prince George's, I think it was Montgomery County, with a stock vehicle that you purchased, you can get tickets just from driving a vehicle from the factory. And so I think this is a prudent amendment. And as to your point, you have the ability to issue a ticket or not. I mean, you can send them a warning saying, hey, your stock vehicle exceeds the decibel level in our state, but I don't think we should be sending them fines. And again, there's an old saying with motorcycles, loud pipes save lives. Loud pipes save lives. And with this bill, you're sending citations to anyone who has a motorcycle in this state that drives through those 3 counties. So with that, again, I move the amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To be clear, this is current law. This is not changing current law. So if the good delegate would like to bring a bill next year that will come to our committee, we would be happy to look at it. But I ask the body to resist this amendment. Thank you.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. That ends the work at the desk. Committee announcements, appropriations,
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet at 1 o'clock for bill hearings.
judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, committee members, please listen. The House Judiciary Committee will start bill hearings at 1:30 this afternoon.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Environment and Transportation Committee will meet for bill hearings at 1 p.m. in the committee room.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Economic Matters Committee will be meeting at 1 p.m. followed by a voting session today, 1 p.m.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning. The Health and Government Operations Committee will be meeting at 1 p.m. for hearings. Thank you.
Any subcommittee announcements? Real property.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Housing and Real Property Subcommittee will meet today at 4 p.m. By Zoom. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Local government.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Local Government Bi-County Agency Subcommittee will have its meeting Thursday morning, tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Zoom.
Environment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Environment Subcommittee will be meeting via Zoom after bill hearings and voting today, and also tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Revenues.
Property and casualty.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam
Revenues.
Speaker. The Revenue Subcommittee will be meeting virtually at noon today. Thank you.
Property and casualty.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Property and casualty will meet after ECM voting via Zoom. Thank you.
Government, government ops and health facilities.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Government Operations and Health Facilities Subcommittee will meet today at 11:30. Thank you.
Any other? Education. Go ahead. Go
Thank,
ahead.
thank you, Madam Speaker. The Education Subcommittee Ways and Means will meet 5 minutes after gavel online.
Okay. All righty. And you are criminal law?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Criminal Law Subcommittee is going to be Zooming at approximately 11:30 a.m.
Okay. Any others? Okay. Any delegation announcements? Okay. Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Bi-County Subcommittee for the Prince George's County Delegation will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. via Zoom.
Any other delegation announcements? Okay. Any caucus announcements? Legislative Black Caucus. of
Thank you,
Maryland.
Madam Speaker. The Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland will meet tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Our topic will be our cannabis industry with some critical updates based on the wonderful work we did last session. See everyone at 8:30 a.m. virtually. Thank you.
Veterans Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Veterans Caucus will meet with the governor tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for breakfast after you do your 20 push-ups.
Any other caucus announcements? Okay. Any personal or guest announcements? Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, this is just a very friendly recommendation that if you're putting in a special order, ideally you try and get an amendment request in as soon as you get back to your office. Again, just a friendly, has nothing to do with the minority leader, but we're trying to avoid your own drafting delays because there is a log jam. Thank you.
Okay. All righty. Gentlelady from Prince George's.
Colleagues, I'd just like to draw your attention to I believe they're in the back alley. I want to recognize the AP Scholars, high school students from Chesapeake Math and IT Academy from Upper Marlboro in District 25.
Howard, young lady from Howard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, tomorrow morning from 9 to 10 a.m., the American Heart Association will be on Lawyers Mall teaching hands-only CPR. So please consider giving yourself a few extra minutes on your way to the floor tomorrow so that you can learn a skill that could literally help you save a life. Saving lives should be important enough motivation for you, but the American Heart Association is also running a little competition with our friends across the hall to see which chamber has better participation. So please don't let your housemates down. Thank you.
Okay. And what time is that?
From 9 to 10 tomorrow morning on Lawyers Mall.
Gentleman from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today is 100 Qs in Annapolis. The colors are purple and gold. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated is visiting the halls of both the General Assembly as well as the Treasury building with our brother, Omega brother, Derek Davis. I would like to let everyone know that we were founded, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc., on November 17th in 1911. Our motto is, friendship is essential to the soul. They just left to go to the Treasury, but I want us to still give a rousing applause because there are 100 of us today walking around in purple and gold. Thank you.
Gentleman from Montgomery.
Baltimore
County.
Well, that's interesting you said that, Madam Speaker, because I have a friend who's here today from Montgomery County. I have friends in Montgomery County, okay? It happens. Ann Vermillion is in the rear gallery back there watching us do what we do today, so welcome her, please.
And the gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like the body to join me in welcoming my cousin. She's a member of the Lynx and also a resident of District 23, Dolores Coopers, in the gallery. If we could welcome her. Thank you.
Gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. 2 reminders. The Irish Caucus celebration is next Thursday, March 14th, 8 to 11 at Galway Bay. $30 to Teach for America is the price of admission, and you can drop that by room 209. Also, I heard there may be some music tonight at the Marriott.
Any other person or guest announcements? Seeing none. Seeing none. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? So the clerk will take the call. There being 138 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stands adjourned until Thursday, March 7th at 10 a.m., legislative date February 28th.